right, we got Coach Grinch joining us. We're going to hop right into questions. We'll begin with Ryan Aber and then go to Eric Bailey.
Yeah, Alex, when you look back at last week and the end of the Kansas State game, what did you see that really stood out to you about especially the tackling issues last week, and how confident are you that those can be addressed and addressed quickly?
Yeah, I think the tackling, it's one of those moments where, where's that come from? Where and you're trying to obviously look for the symptoms. Was that something over the course of the week? Is it something you saw the previous Saturday, which we didn't, that were previous Saturdays? And I think you're, talking about experienced players almost across the board. And then, okay, why does that happen? Well, number one, you say, okay, well, again, what did we lack from a preparation standpoint? Did we not do enough over the course of the week? And you say, wait a second, we did the exact same thing we did the previous week and tackle pretty well. So my confidence level, can we get it fixed? Absolutely we can, because those guys have proven to do it over an extended period of time. They did not do it last weekend. And it's disappointing that way. And it's one of those things you got to have an anxiousness about you when you're at the point of attack. The excitement level's got to get cranked up when the ball's coming your way. But you also have to, stick to the techniques and fundamentals, and you got to make sure that you're coming up with a body part. That's one of our, chief coaching points, is take the extra step and come up with a body part, meaning wrap. And so often, as you saw the other night, was two extremes. Number one, not wrapping, not taking the extra step, which means that we're not using our techniques and fundamentals that we've just displayed in the past. And the second thing is, in a couple of situations, it was the lack of a tackle attempt, which might be a little bit even more alarming, which means the ball surprised us, not just the ball carrier, but the ball itself coming in our direction, or possibly to the man in which we're covering. So, disappointing that way. Obviously, it creates a very difficult situation in terms of keeping points off the board. But our chief issue, I'll say this, and I guess I'll start with a statement. Our biggest issue for the last 2 weeks is that fourth quarter. We win the fourth quarter, we're feeling a whole lot different right now. And we can fix a lot of issues, and we can deep dive into those issues and say, we found a way to finish in the fourth. But obviously those issues become that much more paramount, combined with our inability to play 4 quarters of football.
Thanks, Alex.
Eric Bailey and Joe Bettner.
Alex, you were introduced to the OU Texas game last year. How much importance do you see in Saturday's game, not just for the balance of this season, but from a big picture standpoint in terms of perception and future recruiting?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I think, when you're talking about one of the best rivalries in sports, and so you got a major responsibility as a coach and as a player at the University of Oklahoma to embrace that and attack the week of preparation and play your best football game on Saturday. I mean, that's got to be the focus. Anything beyond that, it is something that you deal with on either side of it. I mean, the biggest thing that you got to focus on is the things that you can impact, the things that you have complete control over, and that's your effort level and your ability to execute on Saturday. So, with an opponent, with the quality of Texas, obviously they certainly have our full and utmost respect. The rivalry aspect of things certainly adds a layer to everything. And then in the end, what you need to do is you got to have an elite week of preparation and focus. And we've done that up until this point.
Thanks, Alex.
Joe Bettner and then Jason Kersey.
Alex, with just the skill set that Sam Ehlinger has, I'm curious how much of a challenge he presents to you guys, just considering how the last 2 weeks have went. Yeah, no, I think, Sam is an elite quarterback. Has been doing it for a long time at a very high level. The ability to extend plays, efficient in the passing game. He can run for the tough yards. He can make you pay when you have good coverage. He can fit the ball in the tight windows despite good coverage. Whether it's getting a tough yard in a short yard situation, maybe on a goal line, something along those lines, or scrambling around to extend the play to buy time for guys to get downfield and get open in some of those situations. He's one of those guys that I can only imagine from an offensive coordinator standpoint, where you just feel like you can't really call a bad play because he's always going to make it right. So there's some high-level guys that you have to play every year in terms of quarterbacks, and this one is a big-time one for us. Thank you.
Jason Kersey and then Bob Prisbillo.
Hey, Alex. apologies if this is a little blunt here, but when you look at the last two games, do you think the problems that you've seen in the secondary are solvable with the current personnel, or are we getting to a point where maybe you need to start looking at other options?
Well, we're always looking at other options. I mean, we're always looking at personnel. You're always looking at scheme. You're always looking at, okay, where's the deficiency? You know, what you don't do is you don't just circle one and say, well, that's the answer, and then that fixes all. You know, it's certainly if there's a consistent with one particular individual or one particular call, and then obviously you're analyzing those things. But also, you got to look at body of work, and, you can make a one-game evaluation or a one-play evaluation. So all that stuff factors in. I will say this, I think probably leaned on experience, early on this season, where because it was the right thing to do, because you can only coach the guys that practice. Right. So, I mean, that's part of it. I got a lot of notes for the next pandemic, how I changed some things, but that's a real part of it, and also I think, the biggest thing is, guys got to, execute at a high level. I mean, you're always one play away from kind of being the GOAT. You don't get credit for the previous tackle. You don't get credit. And we talked about it before, 14 game starter. Okay. Now what? You don't get credit for that. And the expectation, you play at a higher level. And we need to do that. Right. And so I got to coach them better. But no, you're certainly, always looking at, rotating more. We'd like to. I think that we're getting to the point that we can. Ultimately, whoever takes the field's got to play at a high level. Any issues that we've had, you've also had, some pretty good examples of getting it right. And so obviously you got to do that more. And there's no hiding the fact that it hasn't been good enough, specifically the last 2 weeks, specifically in the fourth quarter.
Thanks, Alex.
Bob Prisbillo and then Garen Emig.
Alex, it feels like people can live with when it's young guys making mistakes. Is it more confusing, frustrating that it's some of your older guys who have made some of the biggest errors during the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's unacceptable. I mean, that's and you don't talk to them like, and they could echo this to you. You don't talk to them like it's their first start. You don't talk in that way of, hang in there, bud. This is, welcome to college football type of moments. You played on big time stages. You played a lot of football, and to not execute at a high level is obviously disappointing. And then you turn the finger back on yourself as a coach and say, where did I fail? What did I miss? What was the symptom that I missed the previous week of practice? And what did I miss that night? That would lend itself to having a poor performance, because that's what it is. The film says it wasn't good enough. It wasn't even close to being good enough, specifically in the secondary. And again, I'm responsible for it. And so, I'm looking at my symptoms. Where did I go wrong? So no, when it's older guys, it is different. It's completely different. But also because it's older guys, you try to find some semblance of perspective because of the body of work. And you say, they've been in the moment now, they performed, at a certain level at times, they've executed these calls, these responsibilities. I can show you them having success, whether it's in the run game or the pass game, tackling, as mentioned. And so you also have to use that, and they need to use that. They got to draw from those experiences. But in the end, no, there's a completely different level of evaluation based on an older player versus a younger player.
Okay, Garen Emig and then Cliff Brunt.
Alex, we talked to Lincoln yesterday, and he admitted to a correlation between the emphasis on takeaways and guys being a little out of control when they need to just square up and make the safe tackle. I think the way you put it a little while ago is make sure we get a body part. Are you sensing the same problem?
I think that could certainly be a part of it. I mean, I think if you bury your head into the grass, I would not give you that out, right? I mean, if you're trying to put pads on the ball and then trying to get the big hit, type of thing, or if you're falling off of a tackle because you're stripping, and I'm not saying that a couple of those didn't exist. On the same token, is if you're diving at an ankle and you don't come up with anything, I wouldn't accuse those individuals of trying to get a takeaway. So no, could that rear its head at times, possibly, but also I know there's several balls this year that have hit us in the hands that we haven't come up with, and so maybe that's emphasizing it too much too. But It's something we got to get more of, specifically to the takeaway side of things. And then we got to make sure first guy contact's got to get do a great job securing the ball carrier. That never changes, and that's the only way we've ever coached it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go to Cliff Brunt and then John Hoover.
Yeah, Coach, over recent years, you guys have had historically great offenses, and sometimes that's helped maybe bail out the defense a little bit. This season, the offense is working out some kinks. You got a freshman quarterback. How much more ownership does the defense need to take for the direction this team goes and how things turn out this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense needs to take ownership, despite, if the offense was the number one offense in the country and full steam ahead, and none of those other factors even were mentioned. I think because that's our role within this organization as the defense coordinator, defense coaches, defensive players. We got to have more ownership across the board, regardless of what happens on the other side of the ball. But certainly, as you look at these last couple of weeks, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. If we win the fourth quarter, we win the game. We've given up 31 points in the fourth quarter the last 2 weeks for a number of reasons. If that number changes, but by a relatively small amount, we feel a whole lot different right now. And we're coaching guys, we're improving on guys, we're frustrated by individual plays and saying that's not acceptable. But we certainly don't feel the way we sit here on a Wednesday, right? So we got to do a better job as players, a better job as coaches. To play 4 full quarters, and then let's see what the scoreboard reads. We're always going to have issues. We're always going to have things we need to correct. There's something's going to happen in the game. You watch any college football game, any NFL football game, there's going to be things that happen defensively that are head scratchers. Saying how did they hit on that one play? How did they hit on that that pass or that run? And that's unacceptable to tackle that particular way, or an individual having a poor performance. But collectively now we got to play 4 quality quarters of football and find a way to win. In the end, and we've done the exact opposite the last 2 weeks, which is obviously us as coaches not doing a good enough job of getting guys to play 4 quarters, I would accuse us of being in that situation at times last year and found a way to win, and now we're seeing the other side, and we got to own it. You earn the praise, and you also earn the frustration by players, fans, everything else. You lose. There's ways you win. There's ways you lose, and one of the ways you win is you play better defense. We got to do a better job.
John Hoover and then Caleb McCurry.
Alex, I want to take you back to that what you were saying about the fourth quarter. You mentioned the phrase "for a number of reasons." I wanted to pull that apart a little bit. I think of the 5 scoring drives in the fourth quarter, only one was over 50 yards. You had the kickoff return, you had the punt. The block punt, you had a fumble, I think. So how do you kind of measure that? Because you give up a 13-yard drive, you give up a 29-yard drive. That's not too terrible. What do you think it is? Is it fitness playing into it a little bit? Is it focus, or guys playing too tight, or how have you assessed that just overall?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think every individual guy comes to it from a different angle. And so, to say it's one, a specific issue would probably be inaccurate, but I think you hit on a lot of them. I think one of the things we got to do a better job of is focus. I mean, a major emphasis, focusing on my individual responsibility, my individual job, regardless of any other circumstances, whether it's the guy next to me, maybe had a poor rep the time before. And I'm evaluating, what he's doing. Whether it's something on the offensive side of the ball or something on kicking, ultimately when we take the field, we got to get 3 good plays in a row or get a takeaway. And in those moments, and then we say it to all the time. I learned in coaching, if you do try to feed someone the line, I've told them 1,000 times, what's that say about you as a coach, right? So believe me when I'm saying this to you, it all falls on me. But what in those moments we tell them that what's the situation? The situation, you're gonna get 3 good plays in a row, get a take. There's no way you can talk to me about everything else that's going on, and in the end, that's what it comes down to defensively. Sometimes that obviously is get four downs in a row. That's is what's necessary to get the outcome that you need. And so, I think I was asked about fitness or whether it was fatigue maybe a couple of weeks ago too, and was something I didn't think at the time, and it's something that when you see it 2 weeks in a row now, you got to say, okay, now wait a second, are we doing too much during the week? Are we playing guys too many reps. And that's something that, we certainly analyze as well, and something that we're currently doing moving forward. So no, it's everything, I think. It's to think that you flip one of those and everything, turns out roses. No, but you got to have the mental fortitude in those fourth quarters. There's 14 points on the board when I think 2 minutes ago in the game, 2 minutes ago in the third quarter, Kansas State, there's 16 points on the board, and still frustrated all heck. I mean, with a minute to go in the third quarter last week, and all of a sudden you look up at the end of the game, we're frustrated about that 16 points. God dang, give me those 16 points again, and fix those issues, as opposed to not finishing. And there's not a scenario that happens over the course of this season where if we don't fix our issue in the fourth quarter, that we're going to have any level of success.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions. Caleb McCurry and then James Hale.
Hey, Alex, are you, for this season, are you doing anything differently to kind of boost morale for the team? Like, for example, before the Baylor game, the first Baylor game last year, you had the team rewatch the Super Bowl where the Patriots came back against the Atlanta Falcons being down 28-3. I'm just wondering, are you having your players, especially after these 2 losses, are you having them kind of look back on things like that, doing anything different to boost morale?
No, and we have, and we do a defensive meeting every single day with some type of topic. I'd be embarrassed to kind of mention some of what the topics have been over the last 2 weeks because we haven't gotten the outcomes despite of that. So I'll keep that to myself. But no, it's videos. But it's not sinking in. So it's something that we continue to do, and then you keep swinging the bat. Sometimes you land a message, sometimes you don't, right? And certainly I don't take credit when the message gets landed. It's the kids that ultimately get it done. And it's my fault when I can't land a message. No, again, I'm fairly embarrassed to say what we've done over the last few weeks when you ultimately see the results, because it's obviously not hitting home.
Thanks.
Last question, James Hale.
Alex Yelich has come over from Oklahoma State. How much has he brought from what they did there? And when you look at Texas's offense, you talked about Sam and how good of a quarterback that he is, but what else do they have? What are they doing now that's anything differently than maybe they've done since you've seen them before?
Well, they use tempo very well, and obviously Coach Herman's a tremendous offensive coach as well. And so I think you see a real good marriage between the 2 approaches. But just put a lot of stress on you defensively. The ability off the run game to have run pass options, which makes it very, very difficult. We kind of use the phrase defensively, kind of zeroes you out. Where you can't have an extra in the pass game and have an extra guy in the run game. So you're constantly doing that kind of math in your head to try to put yourself in the best situation to be successful. And so that's something they do a great job of, but also the ability to stretch you, and throw the ball downfield. Hit some home runs last week. Kind of stand out just having just watched that. But no, just it's you can't just circle. Okay, this is the play we need to stop this week. This is the formation that is their bread and butter, or this is the individual that is their go-to guy that they do a good job spreading the ball around. And again, when a play breaks down or you otherwise feel like you defended it, then you got an elite quarterback to make it right. So. No, they got a lot of respect for both of them as offensive coaches.